She came back with nothing, except the need to survive. Nora returned without announcement. The bus left her at the edge of town just before morning settled in. No one waited. No one waved. The road swallowed the sound of the engine and left her standing alone with a single bag in a place that looked familiar but felt distant. She did not pause long enough to be noticed. The town had not changed. The same houses leaned quietly into themselves. The same streets carried dust instead of conversation. What had changed was her place within it. She was no longer expected, no longer counted. Nora did not ask where to stay. She did not ask who remembered her. She asked where work could be found. Work was safer than questions. By midday, she reached the edge of a large farm. People were already bent low in the fields, moving in practiced rhythm. No one looked up. She waited until someone noticed her standing there, uncertain but steady. "You can work," the outer rose. A voice finally said. Noda nodded. It was. And no, the work was hard. The soil resisted her hands. The tools were worn. Still, she worked without complaint. She did not rush. She did not stop. Survival required focus, not pride. Kim noticed her before the sun dipped low. Not because Nora asked for help, but because she never did. First day, Kim asked. Kim. "First day back," Nora replied. Kim didn't ask where she had been. She understood that some answers arrived slowly, if at all. That night, Nora lay awake listening to the unfamiliar quiet of a place she once knew by heart. She felt no relief, no gratitude, only resolve. She had not come to be welcomed. She had come to endure. They were allowed to work, just not to belong. The edges of the field were where the rules softened and the effort hardened. Nora and Kim worked there each day, far from the center, where the soil was kinder and the work more visible. They were permitted, but never invited closer. Kim felt it deeply. "They see us," she said once, wiping sweat from her face. "They just don't choose us." Nora kept working. "We're allowed to stay. That's not the same as belonging." Nora did not disagree. She had learned the cost of wanting more than what was offered. Daniel watched from a distance. He managed the farm with precision and order. Everyone had a place. Everyone had limits. The edges existed for a reason. At midday, a tool broke nearby. A younger worker struggled. No one moved right away. Helping meant losing time. Time. Materet. Nora noticed. She hesitated. Only breathe. Fla. Only breathe. Fla. Then she turned back to her row. Kim saw Italiano to pause. The decision. That night, Kim's questions grew louder than the work. How much are we supposed to accept? Say, ask it. Nora answered softly. Enough to survive. Kim wasn't sure that was enough. Not all kindness announces itself, and noticed what others overlooked, not because she searched for it, but because she paid attention. She noticed Nora's steady rhythm, Kim's growing exhaustion, the way the edges drained more than they returned, and did not speak about it. She adjusted. Schedules shifted. Supplies appeared closer to the outer rows. Breaks came sooner. No explanations were given, no credit claimed. Nora noticed, but said nothing. Kim noticed and felt something loosen inside her chest. Daniel remained distant. He trusted Anne. He did not question quiet efficiency. One afternoon, Anne worked beside Nora. Briefly, "You don't pace yourself like someone planning to leave," Anne said. "I don't plan to," Nora replied. Anne nodded. That was enough. Love moved invisibly that day, not through speeches, but through small rearrangements that made survival slightly lighter. One question was enough to disturb the peace. Vicky did not whisper. She had never learned how. She spoke the way people did when they had carried a thought too long without setting it down. The question rose from her not as accusation, but as exhaustion finally finding air. "Why do the same people always carry more?" she asked. One afternoon when the sun stood still and the field felt endless, the work did not stop. Hands continued moving. Tools scraped soil. Footsteps passed as if nothing had been said, but something had shifted. The rhythm loosened. The silence thickened. No one answered, not because they disagreed, but because the question had already begun answering itself. Vicky returned to her work, but her posture changed. She no longer rushed to fill gaps left by others. She no longer softened her movements to make the burden seem lighter than it was. Nora felt the question settle inside her. It echoed in places she had learned not to examine. She had accepted weight as normal. She had mistaken endurance for expectation. Kim welcomed the question openly. It gave shape to thoughts she had been afraid to name. She worked differently after that, more deliberately, less apologetically, and observed from a distance. She said nothing. She knew that questions once released could not be gathered again. They waited. They returned at unexpected moments. No argument followed. No resolution arrived. Yet that evening, the field felt altered, not broken, not repaired. Shin, and that was enough to unsettle comfort. She could have left, but she chose to stay. The slowdown came without warning. The work thinned. The hours shortened. Uncertainty crept in quietly, as it always did. Some noticed it immediately. Others pretended not to. When the first person left, no one commented. When the second left, a space opened. Elora noticed the silence more than the absence. She had options. Everyone knew it. Easier ground waited elsewhere. Places where effort was matched with assurance, where staying did not require faith. Say, está lit. Not defiantly, not dramatically. She simply arrived the next morning and took her place beside Nora, as if it had always been so. No explanation followed. No promises were exchanged. They worked in shared rhythm. Basit, watered, adjusted, Basi, stood together. When the day pressed heavy, Kim watched closely. She felt something unfamiliar. Relief without certainty, and noticed and adjusted nothing. Some choices needed no support to stand. The burden did not shrink. The work did not soften, but it no longer felt singular. and that changed everything. Love was never rewarded, but it was remembered. The season ended the way most seasons do, quietly. There was no final gathering, no speech, no acknowledgement of who had endured and who had not. People drifted away in ones and twos, carrying whatever the work had left them with. Some were offered nothing, some were remembered. Nora was called aside near the end. No praise was given, no apology offered. Only trust, stability, not as charity, but as recognition. She accepted without celebration. She understood the difference. The field did not reward love. It did not promise safety or fairness or permanence, but it remembered who stayed. And in that remembering, something solid formed. Not relief, not victory, only resolve.